My brother and I have always been close, even as adults. Before he got married, we would spend our weekends together. But as the years passed after his marriage, things changed. One day, when I assumed he was living happily, I received a shocking message from him. I'm being accused of an affair I know nothing about, and they're demanding compensation in divorce court. It seemed my earnest brother was being sued by his wife. Immediately, I rushed to his house. My name is Ava, a 31-year-old woman and lawyer. After graduating from law school, I began working at a prominent firm. The journey to where I am today was challenging, but I've managed to build a busy and fulfilling career. Despite my hectic schedule, I make time for my unique hobby, gaming. My brother Samuel, 5 years my senior, shares my love for gaming. He supported me during college and the bar exam, and we've remained close. As I established my career and continued enjoying games with Samuel, our gaming sessions became less frequent after his marriage last year. Then, one quiet weekend, Samuel called. "Hey, do you have a moment? I need some advice." This was unusual, as reliable Samuel rarely sought guidance. Surprised, I listened closely. "Recently, my wife has been acting strangely," he confided. "She often goes out and sometimes doesn't come home at night. I hope I'm just overthinking it." Samuel's wife, Charlotte, seemed friendly the few times I met her, but his concerns were alarming. While staying out late or going out isn't inherently wrong, it can be concerning if it's frequent and suggests potential relationship issues. Samuel turned to me, a lawyer, for potential solutions. However, without solid evidence, there wasn't much I could do from a legal standpoint. Involving a lawyer at this stage might escalate the situation without proof against his wife. "I understand your worry," I told him. "But without more information, it's hard to say. She could just be out having fun. If you're seriously concerned, our firm works with a detective agency. I can introduce you to them." Though there wasn't much I could do directly, I offered to connect him with a detective if he felt the need. "A detective, huh?" Samuel considered. "That could work. I'm swamped with work, so I can't investigate it myself." "I'll think it over," Samuel responded, sounding uncertain. Despite his hesitation, I sent the detective agency's information to his computer. "Let me know if you decide to hire them. I'll make the necessary arrangements," I assured him. "Thanks," Samuel replied with a sigh before ending the call. His demeanor seemed noticeably more somber, indicating the situation was more serious than I initially thought. Days turned into weeks, and Samuel neither contacted the detective nor reached out to me. I wondered whether he was too busy or if things had settled down with Charlotte. Eventually, I decided to check in with him. "Samuel, how are things? Any updates on the situation with Charlotte? It doesn't seem like you've reached out to the detective." I hoped Samuel's worries were unfounded, but from his tone, it was clear that things hadn't improved. "It's not resolved," he admitted gloomily. "I considered hiring the detective, but Charlotte handles our finances, including my salary. I can't afford the fees." Samuel spoke in a somber tone, feeling helpless as he described his ongoing anxiety due to Charlotte's behavior. "I understand hiring a detective can be expensive," I said. Samuel's allowance would barely cover the investigation fees. Hearing his disheartened voice weighed heavily on me. "All right, let me see what I can do to help you." "Don't worry, Samuel. I owe you for everything you've done for me." I thought of this as a chance to repay my brother and ease his burden. I asked Samuel to hang tight and ended the call. A few weeks later, I stumbled upon some disturbing information about Charlotte. Before I could share it with Samuel, he called me, sounding more frantic than ever. "Is everything okay?" I asked, bracing myself for what Samuel would reveal next. "Charlotte is threatening to sue me for alimony based on false allegations of infidelity. She has a lawyer demanding compensation for the divorce, and they're threatening legal action if I don't pay." It sounded like Samuel had been caught off guard by Charlotte and her lawyer's unexpected demands. He explained that he had called me secretly during a break from their intense discussion. Hearing this, I was at a loss for words. I knew Samuel wasn't the type of person to cheat. He wouldn't even know how to begin. That's why he insisted the accusations were fabricated. Charlotte was attempting to claim compensation in their divorce based on a false story of Samuel's infidelity. Samuel is a genuinely kind-hearted person, always treating everyone with respect. In my line of work, I often encounter victims of scams and frauds, so I worried about Samuel being too trusting. However, I never thought the deception would come from his own spouse. So what's the situation? I pressed Samuel. What is the other side saying? Samuel isn't having an affair, so this claim seems implausible. Given that Samuel could be interrupted at any moment, I needed to gather as much information as I could in the short time we had. Samuel then explained that someone had taken a photo of him during a business meeting with a female colleague, and now they were using it as evidence of an affair. Both of them were professionally dressed, and the setting was businesslike. It was clear the image was being manipulated to suggest infidelity. There were several aspects of the situation that seemed suspicious, especially the strategy of the opposing lawyer. A lawyer is expected to act professionally and prioritize their client's interests. If there was genuine infidelity, the lawyer would work to minimize the compensation amount in the divorce. If the client was the victim, their job would be to maximize the compensation. Demanding compensation based on such weak evidence struck me as questionable. If the lawyer had any legal training, their approach in making such unreasonable demands was troubling. Accepting such baseless requests as a family would set a dangerous precedent for future wild claims. I couldn't sit idly by. Samuel, I'm on my way over now. Don't respond to anything they say until I get there. Just stay put and wait for me. I decided to intervene as Samuel's lawyer and confront Charlotte and her lawyer directly. Switching from my casual clothes to professional attire, I quickly put on my suit and prepare myself for work mode. I called a taxi and hurried to Samuel's house as fast as possible. Upon arrival, I took a moment to collect myself before ringing the doorbell. Samuel answered, welcoming me inside. In the living room, I found Charlotte seated next to an unfamiliar man, presumably her attorney. Both of them looked surprised to see me. Sister-in-law, it's been a while. I greeted Charlotte politely before introducing myself to the man beside her. Nice to meet you. I'm Ava, an attorney, and I'm here to represent Samuel. Both Charlotte and her attorney reacted with shock. Ava, a lawyer? You're joking, right? Charlotte mumbled, exchanging a quick glance with her attorney. Her astonishment was understandable since she had no idea I practiced law. In the past, people had sought free consultations from me, which sometimes caused trouble. To avoid such situations, I kept my profession private, sharing it only with close friends and family, including Samuel. He respected my decision and never mentioned my job to Charlotte, which likely explained her surprise at my sudden involvement. Since Charlotte controlled Samuel's finances, he likely wouldn't have been able to hire a lawyer under normal circumstances. Perhaps she thought Samuel would be defenseless and seized this opportunity to assert her claims. As Charlotte and her attorney sat quietly, I considered my next move. Then Charlotte's lawyer spoke up, interrupting my thoughts. I don't care whether you're a lawyer or not, the opposing lawyer said. Your brother cheated and should obviously pay compensation. Charlotte, seated beside him, nodded in agreement. Their confidence in winning compensation in a divorce case based on such weak evidence puzzled me. What evidence do you have of this alleged affair? I questioned the lawyer, though I couldn't believe any claims of Samuel's infidelity. Despite my arrival, they continued insisting on the accusations. I wanted to know if they had any further proof beyond the photos Samuel had mentioned. He was having dinner with another woman. That's solid proof, the lawyer asserted. We could let this slide for $50,000. You wouldn't want this getting out to family or his workplace, would you? His words came across as a clear threat. I was almost tempted to laugh at the absurdity of demanding $50,000 based on such flimsy grounds. Did he realize how outrageous he sounded? His bold claims confirmed my suspicions that this lawyer might not be as legitimate as he appeared. Despite his status as a supposed attorney, his approach resembled that of a scam artist. I initially thought he might be a corrupt lawyer, but even with me, a practicing attorney, present, he continued making unprofessional statements. Demanding $50,000 compensation based on a simple public meeting was ludicrous. Being in a suit in a public place during daylight doesn't prove infidelity. To substantiate claims of adultery, direct evidence of actual misconduct is required. Any competent attorney would know this fundamental aspect of the law. If you didn't understand this basic legal principle, something was definitely off. I understand your concerns, I said, considering the next step. We could just settle on the payment, but first, could you provide me with your attorney license number, your full name, and the name of your firm? I pressed the opposing lawyer for his credentials. Unsurprisingly, he began to stumble. I can't recall my license number right now. I must have misplaced it. Contact my wife for an appointment, he stammered, clearly trying to avoid the situation. Forgetting one's own attorney license number is inconceivable for a legitimate lawyer. It was obvious he was attempting to deflect and find a way out. You can't provide it because you're not a real lawyer, are you? I pointed out. I expected him to confess, but he remained defiant. That's ridiculous. I could sue you for defamation, he retorted. I couldn't help but chuckle. Go ahead if you must. If you're genuine, you would have no reason to hide your identity. Plus, a reputable attorney wouldn't threaten to sue over such a minor issue. I replied with a smirk, leaving him speechless. The tables had turned and both Charlotte and the imposter attorney appeared defeated. The ball is in my court now, Mr. Fake Attorney, I said. Aren't you actually Logan, my sister-in-law's former classmate? You work in sales, don't you? At this, both of them looked up, clearly shocked. Samuel, who had been quietly observing the exchange, watched the scene unfold. The exchange left those around me in shock. You're not an attorney, I began. You're actually my sister-in-law's affair partner. Samuel wasn't the one having the affair. It was you two, wasn't it? I looked at Charlotte, who appeared taken aback by my revelation. The sudden appearance of an informed attorney must have been unsettling. After consulting with Samuel and learning he couldn't afford an investigation, I took matters into my own hands. I couldn't bear to see Samuel so distraught. So I looked into the situation myself and discovered Charlotte's affair. I had collected evidence, including the identity of the man she was seeing. When I arrived at the house and saw Charlotte with a man next to her, I realized he was the same person mentioned in my findings. The man posing as Charlotte's lawyer was actually her affair partner. I let them know I had ample evidence of Charlotte's infidelity and reminded them that Charlotte and her partner would be the ones facing consequences. So, are you still planning to claim compensation from Samuel? I asked, watching as both Charlotte and Logan silently shook their heads. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. Please forgive me, Charlotte said, her voice full of regret. Realizing she would be held accountable, her tone shifted to one of remorse. Logan, observing her change in demeanor, gave a slight nod. Charlotte then spoke about the fabricated affair, explaining that Logan had expressed a desire to marry her, and she had felt the same. They conspired to manufacture an affair to hasten the divorce and seek financial compensation. It was astonishing how someone could conceive of and attempt such a scheme. Samuel, who had been silent up to this point, finally spoke. You betray someone and then try to frame them for a crime. Do you think just apologizing will make it right? I've always trusted you as my wife. Be ready to face the consequences of your actions. His words were calm but carried a palpable anger toward Charlotte. I added, you may not realize it, but pretending to be a lawyer without a license is a serious crime. You could face jail time or significant fines. Logan, you're implicated as well. There's no avoiding the consequences. Hearing this, both of their faces turned pale. They had not anticipated the gravity of the situation. In a desperate tone, Charlotte repeated, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I didn't know. I sincerely apologize. Logan quickly got up from his chair and deeply apologized. I'm truly sorry. We didn't think it through. Please forgive us. Their fervent apologies were a stark contrast to their earlier demands, making the situation appear all the more foolish. I don't care what happens to the two of you. I'm reporting this, Samuel declared. It's often said that the kindest people harbor the fiercest anger. And Samuel wasted no time in making his report. Ignoring their pleas, he contacted the authorities. In the end, both Logan and Charlotte were arrested and faced prison time. Samuel and Charlotte divorced, and the settlement from the divorce took care of any remaining financial matters. They agreed to have no further contact with each other. Charlotte was left with no defense, reduced to tears. They had tried to benefit by deceiving and falsely accusing others, only to face the consequences of their actions. Regret now was too little, too late, but one could only hope they would learn from their mistakes. After the divorce, Samuel seemed to regain his old spirit. Since getting married, Samuel had put aside online gaming, but now he began enjoying it again together. After the divorce, Samuel moved out of the room he shared with Charlotte and started fresh in a new place. This allowed him to shift his feelings and embark on a new chapter. For a time, he appeared to have lost trust in others and kept his distance. But recently, I've noticed him slowly reconnecting with friends for meals and social activities. Once Samuel is feeling more settled, I plan to introduce him to some of my trustworthy friends. More than anything, after all he's been through, I want Samuel to find happiness.